Alright, in today's video, we're going to be talking about basic multiplication. Now, there's many signs for multiplication. Why are there many signs? Because there are different ways we can express multiplication. And there's different instances where you will see why we use those different ways of expressing multiplication. Now, the first and most common multiplication sign is just an X, like so. Let me go ahead and redraw that X. It's an X like so. That's the most basic sign of multiplication. And you will see it written as 4 times 4, 6 times 8, and then you'll have an equal sign. Sometimes you might see them stacked on each other, like 6 times 8, like this, using the stack method. It doesn't really matter. And if you see them stacked on this in this way, it's basically the same as saying 6 times 8. You just go from top to bottom, or from bottom to top. 8 times 6, 6 times 8. Okay. And that's basically what the X is. It's just a sign for multiplication. A sign for multiplication. Now, there's also another sign for multiplication that not many people know about, and this is very important to know, that sometimes you can express multiplication as just a dot. That's right. You can express multiplication as just a dot. And when we get in, later on into more complicated math, you'll understand why we express it as a dot. One of the main reasons why you express it as a dot is because you're going to be using numbers and letters together. And sometimes those letters will be X. And you will get that confused. You will get the multiplication sign confused with the actual variable, or the letter. Okay, and that's why we use the dot sometimes. So when you use the dot, it'll look like this: 4 times 4, or 5 times 5, and then it'll have the equal sign after each one of those. Okay, so just keep in mind that multiplication can be expressed as an X, and it can be expressed as a dot, because it'll be very important later on. Now, another way multiplication can be expressed, this is going to be more common in algebra, but you need to know this, that multiplication can be expressed with parentheses. Parentheses, okay? Now, how would that look like? How would that look if you put numbers in it? And this is how it would look. So you have 4 times 4, that's how it's written normally. Or you can see it as 4 times 4. And with parentheses, you'll see it written like this: 4 times 4. Okay? And no matter what number if it was 6 times 8, it could be written like this: 6, and then the 8 is inside the parentheses. Or it could be written as 8, and then 6 is inside the parentheses. It doesn't matter. It could be written either way. Now, I encourage you to go online and find some practice problems. There's lots of free websites out there that encourage you to use the parentheses or the dot or the X, that give you a variety of each one of these. So just remember, because this is very important, that multiplication can be expressed by these 3 symbols. It could be any of these symbols. Any of these symbols. And if you have a journal, I encourage you to also write it in your notes, okay? So make sure you put those in your notes if you're preparing for the GED test. Okay, and also with basic multiplication, you're going to need to memorize your multiplication table. Your multiplication table. Okay? And the best way and the fastest way that I found to memorize your multiplication table is to go on multiplication.com. Multiplication.com. You can put a www. Okay. Go to multiplication.com and they have a free multiplication table that you can use. And what it does is it's not like a regular it's not like just memorizing something. It's not like, oh, well, I got to memorize 4 times 8 and 6 times 9. I got to memorize what these are. Instead, what it does is it does it in a creative story format that'll help you memorize it a lot faster, and you'll be able to memorize it within a week. And you really should memorize your multiplication tables for this GED test. Especially for the first 10 questions or so, they will be measuring your knowledge of basic math, and it won't allow you to have a calculator at all. So, how does multiplication.com teach you? Let me give you an example. When they do 6 times 9, instead of having to memorize 6 times 9, and then they'll give you, whatever it equals. Instead, they give you a little story, and they say there were these little chicks, okay, and they were sweeping up a fishy floor because it stunk really bad. Okay? And they were sweeping it up with a sign. Okay? With a sign. Okay? And so chicks times sign equals fishy floor, which is 54. And if you want, you can check on your calculator. 6 times 9 gives me 54. Okay? And that's kind of an example of how they teach you how to do multiplication. So I encourage you to go on multiplication.com, memorize your multiplication tables before you continue on any of my math lessons. Okay, you need to memorize these multiplication tables because they are very, very important, and they will help you later on, and they will help you do better on the GED test. It might take you 3 days to memorize them if you really put your mind to it, and it might take you a week. I would say give it about a week, and you'll be able to memorize them, and then you can just zoom on through math because you're rocking. All right, and that's basic multiplication on GED High School. If you have any questions, please leave some in the comments below, and I'll see you in the next video.